Okay, girls, so today now we're going to do our chapter 12.4 on organizing and displaying data. So, um, steps when we get our data. So first we have to examine our data, then we have to organize it, and then we have to display it. So let's look about what we mean by examining our data. So when we're examining our data, once we have organized it, we have to organize it in certain way. But we have to identify any anomalies and highlight it. So any type of data that seems out of the normal or that seems like a weird answer or response or data that we obtain. So we don't delete them, we have to highlight them. This could be done because we made a mistake in the way that we were recording our data, or it can be an unusual response. And these types of anomalies are called can be regarded as outliers. We're going to see outliers in what we're going to be doing tomorrow, but just be on mind that it refers to this type of data that are, it seems like it doesn't belong. It's not following the same trend as the rest of the data. So those anomalies, okay? Outliers can greatly affect the results on calculations, as we're going to see tomorrow, okay? So when we're organizing data, what do we do? One of the ways that we can organize data is with a frequency table. It's one of the most used ways of organizing data, okay? And when we organize data as a frequency table, it will allow us to see trends in the data. We're going to see how. So the frequency table will record the numbers of times a particular data value is repeated. And we're going to, and that how many times it's repeated is what we call the frequency. So what is the data value? So let's say that I'm recording colors of cars in Avila's car park. So the data value will be blue, red, black, white. That will be the data value, and the frequency will be how many cars, red cars do I see, how many blue cars, how many black, how many white. That will be the frequency. But the data value can also be numbers. Like for example, if I want to know what is the age of the students in the class, so most likely I'm going to get between 13 and 14 years old. So it can be 13 or 14. That's the data value, and frequency, then how many girls have 13 and how many girls have 14 years old. So those are what refers to data value and frequency. The table is constructed based on the data values with its corresponding frequency. Okay, sometimes the data is too much, so we can create class intervals to create the frequency table. For example, we can do, for example, from 150 to 154 to 155 to 159 centimeters, and then I can record, instead of having all the ones that are 150, all the ones that are 151, all the ones that are 152, then I group them into class intervals, okay? The choice for the size of class intervals should be between 5 and 10 groups. So we shouldn't have less than 5 groups, and we shouldn't have more than 10 groups. It's not possible to have intervals such as from 5 to 10 and 10 to 20, because if we do this, if I have a value of 10, where do I include it? Do I put it in the first group or in the second group? So it has to go from 5 to 9, for example, or for 5 to less than 10, and then from 10 to less than 20, something like that. But we can't include a number twice or a value twice. Okay, let's look at this example. I'm going to escape this one here because we're going to be using Excel. So here is my idea, girls. You can do this by hand, but you can also do it using Excel. So I thought that because we're recording this one and we're doing it in video, it's a good idea to maybe try to do it in Excel. So my suggestion is I'm going to teach you, I'm going to show you how I do it. I'll do it step by step. And if you prefer to do it by hand, then that's fine. But I'll suggest that you give it a try and try to do it by Excel, because it will make your life much easier if you learn to use Excel and you start getting familiarized with Excel, because Excel is one of those tools that you are going to be using everywhere, regardless of which profession you want to follow. Just to tell you a little bit of a story, on last week, um, on Thursday, I went to my children's childcare, and the director of the childcare was struggling because she had to do the roster of the educators for the next week, and because the numbers are so low because of the coronavirus, then she was trying to do everything by hand and she was really struggling. um, so I said to her, let's sit down together, we work it out, and I was able to create a file in Excel for them. It took me, I don't know, 1 hour, but it's going to save them hours and hours and hours of work. So I really recommend, if you can familiarize yourself with Excel, it's going to be make your life much easier, regardless, believe me, of which profession do you decide to follow. So let's do this example on the next video.